Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be in chapter 43 this morning. We're going to start right at chapter 43. So glad for you all to be here. And I think this microphone here is a little... Well, I'll save that one for Jamie. And I guess if we can get that house light up so they can see. I know. I remembered. We're good. I remember. There we go. How's that? We're good. Okay. I could do a long review, but we know if I did a long review, it would probably take the entire class. But we know where we're at. We know that Joseph is number 2 in command over Egypt. We know that the brothers last week went to Egypt to purchase grain from Joseph. Did not know, they still don't know the true identity of Joseph, their brother. We know that Joseph, and this is, just the latter part of 41, we know that Joseph keeps Simeon as a guarantee and tells them that don't you come back. If I see your face again, your younger brother had better be there with you. And in me and my wisdom, Joseph is doing that because the two people that he cares the most about on the planet are his father Jacob and his brother Benjamin. And Joseph, in his wisdom given to him by God, is doing this. He knows ultimately to get his family down to Egypt into the land of Goshen, but he wants to see how his brother and his father are doing. And this is a great reason why we go verse by verse, because there's a lot that you miss if you're just breezing right through the book of Genesis. But when you actually study it verse by verse and you think of Joseph as a type of Christ, and you look at Jesus Christ in Joseph and in relation to him, and man, you just see the similarities there, and we're gonna touch on that today. Jamie is not here, and I see you looking at me. Can I use you? Okay, that's all right. I'm gonna look at you and ask you to read for me.
I don't know. All right? If I look away, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Okay, now before we start, what happened? It's believed that the brothers would go to Egypt in the first year of the famine. It's believed that they went to Egypt in the first year of the famine. And remember, in last week, in the last part of chapter 42, the brothers don't immediately go back to Egypt with Benjamin. Jacob is, I think Jacob settled to the fact that he thinks that Joseph is dead. And he's pretty much, I think, given up on Simeon because he's not readily to send Benjamin down there. So they kind of settle back at home for a while. I think they have about 100 different conversations about sending Benjamin down. It is believed that they go to Egypt in the first year of the famine, and they think that the provisions that they brought back with them would last them, because remember, Joseph is the one that knows how long the famine's going to last. He knows it's going to last 7 years. The brothers don't know it's going to last 7 years. So the brothers are thinking, maybe what we bought back, maybe this will last us until this famine is over. And they don't realize it until we pick it up in chapter 42. And if you want to go ahead and start reading there, then we will. Now, listen, there's so much in this chapter that we're probably going to just crawl right through it. We may go through it a little faster than you think we will, but we're probably going to crawl right through it because there's a lot in it. 43, yes.
And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food.
So when you see there when it says the famine was sore in the land, that means the famine was really bad in the land. And in the next verse, and it says that when they had eaten up the corn, that's even more information and even more proof that they didn't go right back down to Egypt with their brother Benjamin. They waited because they may have thought, well, this may last us and we can get Simeon later, because Jacob didn't want to send Benjamin down there. That's why when you read it there, it says that when they had eaten up the corn, they didn't go right away. And we may think, well, why wouldn't you go right away to get your son? Well, because the one son that you have, remember who Benjamin is. Benjamin is the son of Rachel, of the wife that Jacob loved the most. This is Jacob's baby son. This is his youngest son. And this is the one that he values over the others, because the other one, who was the other one? Joseph, he's dead. And that's very important to remember for the rest of this story, that Joseph was the favored son, and it's now Benjamin. Because as you're reading these next two chapters, you have to keep in mind that Joseph was the favored son, and he's going to play that against the brothers in the actions that he takes against them. Very, very important to remember, because Joseph is going to use that against the brothers, and they have no way of knowing what he's doing. Right? Okay? Oh, and listen, anybody that has a question or comment, I know we've had some new people join us over the last couple of weeks. I'm very laid back, very user friendly. I know I talk loud and seem like I'm overbearing, but if you have a question, a comment, or hey, Bernie, Brother Bernie, just throw your hand up or just yell it out. It won't harm me a bit. I promise you it won't. Won't bother me one bit. Okay? All right. Now let's go on. Verse 3.
And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you.
Who's that brother? That brother's Benjamin. That man that they're speaking of, the man is Joseph. The man. Joseph, the man, told us, Judah don't know, he told us, you're not going to see my face again, meaning don't come back up in here unless your brother Benjamin is with you. That's what they're saying. Consequently, you all remember the last time Judah spoke? If you go back a couple chapters, remember the last time he spoke was when he got into that thing with his daughter-in-law and didn't know, had sex with her, thought she was a prostitute, and ends up, remember that? That's the last time Judah spoke. So Judah finally gets it together here. Yeah, that's about 3 chapters back, I promise you, right? So Judah's finally getting his life together, okay? All right, come on, let's read on.
If thou wilt send your brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food.
Now this is Judah talking to his father Jacob, trying to convince his father Jacob to allow them to take Benjamin back with them to Egypt to buy food. And Jacob and we know that Jacob is objecting, saying, no, you're not taking Benjamin. I've already lost 2 sons. I'm not going to lose 3, right? And he doesn't know that his 2 sons are not dead. Both of them are actually in Egypt. One, Joseph, is number 2 in command. The other, Simeon, is in jail. All right, come on. Verse 4.
5.
5, thank you.
But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. Mm-hmm. And Israel said. Israel
is Jacob. Remember, God changes Jacob's name to Israel. So Israel is Jacob.
Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell me, the man, whether ye have yet a brother? Mm-hmm. And they said, the man asked us strictly of our
listen,
state.
In 6. When Israel says, wherefore dealt you ill with me to tell the man whether you had a brother? What Jacob is saying is, why did y'all even open y'all mouth and tell him y'all had another brother? I sent 10 of you down there. 10 of you went to buy food. Why did you open your mouth and tell me you had another brother? This is what Jacob is saying. It's like we say to our kids, and I remember my mother and father would say to me, you had no reason to open your mouth saying anything anyway. Why did you even say something? And this is what Jacob is saying to him. He's saying, why did you even tell them you had another brother? They wouldn't have known had you not told him. This is what Jacob is saying. Look at their reaction. Read on.
And they said, the man asks us sternly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of those words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down?
They had no way of
And
knowing.
Judah
They had
said
no way of
unto-
knowing because they didn't know who Joseph was. They did not know that Joseph knew everything about them. Because Joseph he's dressed like an Egyptian. He would have on the Egyptian attire, the Egyptian garb. He probably had on, some kind of hat that distinguished him as a distinguished Egyptian. He spoke in Egyptian. The brothers don't yet know that Joseph knows can still speak his native language of Hebrew. But he's speaking as an Egyptian. And remember, back in the former chapter, he spoke to them through an interpreter. He didn't even speak to them directly because Joseph has a plan. And only Joseph knows what that plan is. And he knows that he needs to get his brothers and his entire family to Egypt to rescue them from the famine. It's God's ultimate plan. Remember, and then even if you go back to Abraham, what did the Lord tell Abraham? Your people are going to end up in a land in Egypt, and they're going to be there for 400 years. This is what God told Abraham. So Joseph is a part in fulfilling God's ultimate purpose of the entire family of Jacob, which will ultimately become the nation of Israel, to be in Egypt, is what Joseph is fulfilling. Come on, which verse are we?
8.
Verse 8, okay.
And Judah said unto Israel, his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones.
All of the brothers had families. When he says, we and thou and our little ones, that means their families. And when he says, send the lad with me, it is believed that Benjamin is somewhere now at the age, not lad, he's somewhere in the age of probably his early 20s or possibly even 30, because remember how long Joseph had been in the land of Egypt in captivity. So that when he says lad, it's not talking about a little boy. It's referring to Benjamin as a young man. And Benjamin is probably standing there saying, Dad, I'll go. And Dad is, Jacob is probably telling Benjamin, shut up. This is not your decision to make. It's mine. Be quiet. This is my decision to make. And Judah's trying to convince Jacob, hey, we're going to go, right? Come on, read on. There's something very important coming up here in a minute that you really need to take note of. Okay? And let me see here.
I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever.
Remember that verse right there. Remember that verse right there where Judah says, I will be surety for him. Because that's going to come up here in about one chapter where Judah says, I'm going to be surety for him. You take me for him. And remember before I said the last time Judah was speaking was when he was coming out of, what he did. So, and nobody knows right now whose family the Messiah is coming through. Judah, none of them know that right now. They only know that the Messiah being Jesus Christ is coming through the house of Jacob. But they don't know which son is coming through. Okay, which verse are we?
Number 10.
Number 10.
For except we have lingered, surely now we had returned the second time.
He's saying if we had not lingered and stayed here for a little while, we could have been down there and back by now. That's more proof that they didn't go right back with Benjamin, that they waited a while. They lingered, they waited. Okay, come on, which verse?
And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be now, do this. Take the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hand. And the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Provident, it was an oversight.
Pre-adventure was an oversight. Hey, now listen, this is important. And if you would, hold your finger right there and flip back to chapter 37 and 28. 37 and 28. how much does it say they sold Joseph for into Egypt to the Ishmaelites? You see it there? Joseph was originally sold for how much? 20 pieces of silver. 20 pieces of silver. Okay, now come back to 43. How many brothers are going down to Egypt? 10, right? Because Simeon and Joseph are already there. They're taking Benjamin, so there's 10 of them going. So they would be taking 10, they would be taking 10 parts. If they're taking double, they're taking 20. So it's like they're taking as much as Joseph was sold into slavery for. They're taking 20 parts. They just take double. Each of them are carrying double. So they're taking, it's almost like they're taking, Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Now 20 parts of currency is going down for them to take to give to Joseph. I just really Lord just showed me that connection there with how they're taking this down here to him. Now, come on, where are we at now?
13.
13, okay.
Take also your brother and arise, go again unto the man.
Now we know the man is Joseph. Go to the man, okay.
And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin.
And he doesn't realize that God has already given them the mercy. He's already given them the unmerited favor, but they don't know who the man is. Joseph is the man. Come on.
If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved.
Mm-hmm.
And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, Bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon.
How would that feel? How would that feel? Joseph kept your brother Simeon before and put him in jail. The money you took with you before, remember Joseph puts that money back in their sacks, and he doesn't even take that money. They don't even know they have the money until they get home. And now, as they come back in with their brother Benjamin, they don't know who Joseph is. Joseph says, take him to my house, and we're going to eat. I'm going to have a dinner with them. What do y'all think about that? What do you all think that they think is about to happen? What do you think they think is about to happen? We in trouble. They think we're in trouble. Because why would the head of Egypt, why would the Lord of Egypt, why would he want to eat with me when I have something that belongs to him? Joseph being a type of Christ. This is the relationship that the Lord wants with us. Jesus Christ invites us to come and dine with him. And he invites us, but we say, I'm not worthy to dine with you because you don't know what I've done. And you wonder, why am I here? Why am I getting all this favor from you? Why are you doing all this for me? And Jesus Christ just says, I want a relationship with you. Receive it by faith. Receive it by faith. I just want a relationship with you. And everything that you see the brothers are about to go through and say right now is similar to the exact similar things that we go through when we are developing and strengthening our life with Jesus Christ. Because we say, why would a Savior want a sinner like me? Because he doesn't know what I've done. And Jesus Christ says, I know exactly what you've done. And watch it here. And look at that relation there. Which verse are you, Jamie?
17.
17, okay.
And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house.
Mm-hmm.
And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, Because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that we may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen and our asses.
Now remember, they're farmers, so they value their animals. So they said, not only are they going to take us for bondsmen, they're going to take us for slaves, they're going to take our animals too. Right? Because, the animals, that's my transportation. That's how I ride. That's how I make my living. I got to have that animal. And they're thinking they're going to take us, and they're going to take our animals too. They don't know what's going on. And many times when God is dealing with this, us in our lives, especially before we gave our life to the Lord, we don't even know what God is, why he's doing it, or why things are orchestrated for us the way they're going, why we're getting such favor the way we're going. Because you can imagine the 10 brothers, they're going into the Egyptian court. There's probably a long line of people waiting to go in to purchase grain from Joseph. And Joseph is up there with all of his assistants and servants, and you know it's your turn to go next. And Joseph looks out and sees you, and Joseph says, "Hey, take them out of line. Just take them to my house and cook them a big meal." And you're looking at everybody else in line, and everybody else in line is saying, "Going, what makes them so special?" And you're thinking, "Man, I'm not special. I'm about to be." I'm about to be a slave because they don't know what we had. And everybody's wondering what makes you so special, and you don't even know what makes you so special. You have no idea. This is how the brothers felt. Because look at their actions when they go to Joseph's house. Where you at, Jamie?
19.
19. Okay.
And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, "O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold..." Now
they're explaining to Joseph's steward of his house. They're explaining to Joseph's, probably the head assistant of Joseph's house, of why they have this money. Because they're trying to explain why, and they don't even know why. But they're trying to make excuses. It's like when our kids do something wrong, and they call us, and they go to explain something, and you say, "Well, thank you for telling me, but that ain't what I called you for." You know, but we'll deal with that after this. You know, that's what this is, right? Come on, Jamie, where you at?
In the middle of 21.
Okay, 21.
Every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, and our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, "Peace be to you. Fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money." And he brought Simeon out unto them.
You don't even have to see a movie or a miniseries to envision that and imagine how that felt, man. You trying to explain something, and he says, "Fear not. You have favor with God." And then all of a sudden, the 10 of y'all standing there, and your brother Simeon walks through the door. And remember, Jacob thought Simeon was already dead. They thought maybe Simeon was already dead. And Simeon walks through the door, and they say, "Hey, we know what went on. We gave you your money and took it back with you." That's one of the best feelings in the world. I'm telling you. I mean, that was thousands of years ago. I can remember how they felt. And remember, Joseph is not there yet. Joseph sent them to the house. He's still conducting business, you know, in his court. He's still conducting business. Joseph is not even there yet. This is just the 11 brothers that are there now. Okay, come on. We're on, Jam. Where you at?
24.
24.
And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon.
See, they still want to give Joseph back his money. Come on.
For they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth.
Now, how do you think Joseph felt when they bowed themselves to Joseph? This is prophecy, vision that the Lord had given Joseph how many years ago? I mean, it's been years. Now all of a sudden, Joseph, remember one of the whole reasons that Joseph was sold into Egypt and his brothers beat him up and threw him in a pit was because Joseph said, "I have a dream that all of y'all are going to bow to me." And they said, "Are we going to bow to you?" And then he told his father, remember? And his father Jacob said, don't talk about that no more. Right? And now all of a sudden they're bowing to Joseph. Man, Joseph's got to be burning up. He's got to be blowing up inside. He's like, "Lord, this is prophecy. they're bowing to try to save their life. They don't even know it's Joseph. They're just bowing because they said, man, hey, they're trying to save their life. I'm telling you, man, when the Lord gives you a vision for your life, a dream or some kind of word, and then years later, this is years later, probably 15, 20 years later, it comes to pass, you're like, I remember that from 10 years ago. Lord gave me that dream. And I remember, and everything I remember, Joseph has been through prison. He was a slave in Potiphar's house for 8 years, remember? He's been falsely accused. And now he's number 2 in Egypt. And everything the Lord told him was going to happen is coming to pass. 5 chapters later. Come on, let's read on. Where you at, Jamie?
27.
Okay, 27.
And he said, and he asked them of their welfare and said...
Wait a minute, you're in 27?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm in the wrong chapter. Over here, 27. There we go. Okay.
And he asked them of their welfare and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake? Is he yet alive?
Why? Because Joseph loves his father. And he's there with his 11 brothers. But he wants to know about his father. Come on.
And they answered, Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance.
Mm-hmm.
And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son.
See the emphasis that the Lord wants us to know right there? He looked up and saw Benjamin, his mother's son. Remember, there was only 2 sons born to Rachel, Joseph's mother. That was Joseph and Benjamin. And Rachel gives birth to Benjamin, remember, at Bethel. And she dies after she gives birth to Benjamin. So this is the next thing that Joseph has to his mother, who is Benjamin. And Joseph's been yearning to see his brother Benjamin ever since he got sold into Egypt. He's been waiting for this moment. But nobody knows it but Joseph, because they don't know who he is. Right? They don't know who he is. Read on, Jamie. Which verse?
In the middle of 29.
29, okay.
And said, Is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. He
cried. Joseph couldn't contain himself. He couldn't contain himself. Joseph cried for his brother. But he couldn't let his brothers know that he was crying. That's why it says that he sought where to cry. If you saw the miniseries, Joseph runs out of the room and goes back into his own chambers, and he cries in his own chamber. Because remember, we're at Joseph's house now. We're at Joseph's residence, and they don't know why he's leaving. They just know that he left the room, but he's got to leave the room because there's more work to be done. To be processed through, so he can't let the brothers know yet. So he gathers himself and comes back in. Okay?
And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread.
Here's another test coming. Set on bread. Okay, come on.
And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians, which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians.
So, at that time, Egypt, it is written that Egypt was one of, if not the most racially segregated country in the world. An Egyptian did not dare eat with a Hebrew. He couldn't even sit at the same table with someone that wasn't an Egyptian. So they set Joseph and his brothers at one table. The Egyptians that were probably serving under Joseph, they sat at another table. And remember, Joseph is number 2 in command, but even though he's number 2 in command, he still can't sit at the same table with the Egyptians. He eats by himself. So so there's three tables there because, like I said, Egyptians. And remember, when we get over into the New Testament, who's the one people that are like that? The Romans. Remember, the Romans do that. They're very, very racially motivated. So Egyptians were extremely racially motivated. If you weren't an Egyptian, you were less than them. So they did not eat with Hebrew. There were even priests in Egyptian priests, idol priests, that they wouldn't even use utensils that had been touched by Hebrews. Wouldn't even touch them, wouldn't use them. They were that racially, it was that bad. But Joseph being number 2 in command, Joseph would always eat by himself. Right? A more thought of the parallel with Jesus Christ, in inviting you to dine with him, and you still don't yet know who he is, but you're dining with him. Right? Even in Revelation, where the Jewish nation is protected by Jesus, protected by the Lord, but they still don't yet know who their protector is. They still don't identify. Remember, Jesus comes to his own, and what does his own do? They reject him because they don't know him. Joseph being a type of Christ. Look at what else Joseph does. Joseph knows this is coming, and I love this right here. Watch this. Come on. Where you at, Jamie?
33.
33.
And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another.
Why? Because there's 11 brothers. Joseph takes the 11 brothers and he sets them in birth order from Benjamin all the way up to the oldest. And if you were to take 11 brothers and you were to say, okay, I'm going to set you all in order, and nobody told you who was the older and who was the younger brother, you know what the chances of you doing that is? Something like 1 in a million. But Joseph sets them in order, and it says they were astonished. They looked, and they saw that, wait a minute, he got us in perfect birth order from youngest to the oldest. And they still don't know how Joseph knows this. They just think he's an extremely wise man living, that's ruling over Egypt. They were amazed at it. But that's not the ultimate test. Here's another one coming. Come on. Where are you, Jamie?
34.
34.
And he took and sent messes unto them.
This is food.
From before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him.
Why does Joseph do this? Why does he give Benjamin 5 times more than them? Why are you thinking about it? My wife will tell you, whenever we go to a restaurant, and if we order the same thing, I look at the size of her entree versus the size of my entree. And if her entree is larger than mine, then I'll say to the waitress, can you go back and get the rest of my entree? I mean, why is mine such smaller than hers, right? But look, this is 5 times more than theirs. Remember what Jacob did with Joseph with the coat of many colors? Remember Jacob favored Joseph? And remember how the brothers felt when Jacob favored Joseph? How they were envious of him? Joseph wants to know, have they changed? And one of the ways for Joseph to know have they changed was to favor Benjamin and see what their reaction is going to be. So I don't just give, right here, he doesn't just give Benjamin double what they ate. He gives Benjamin 5 times. He makes it obvious. Right? He makes it obvious. And remember, Jacob made it obvious that Joseph was his favorite son. So now Joseph has to see, has the brothers changed? Or are they still the same envious, murderous bunch that they were before? Because remember, I mean, you can go back and read the history of these brothers. These brothers are something else. But Joseph has to know, before I reveal and remember, Joseph being a type of Christ. Before God reveals more of himself to us, he puts us sometime in some of the same situations to see, have you changed? Are you going to react the same way that you had before? When a younger brother's favored over you, are you going to change? You know how it's easy to go to somebody when they've lost a loved one or they've had some bad news in their life, to go to them and say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. But is it easy for you to go to somebody when they're rewarded by God and they're favored by God? How do you feel about that? Or do you feel envy in your heart saying, well, I should have got that promotion. That should have happened to me. Why come in? So Joseph wants to know, have they changed? And the only way for Joseph to do that is put him in birth order. Here's the youngest one down there. I'm going to give you 5 times as much as I gave everybody else. You're going to get it all. Now, how the rest of y'all going to feel?
And it seems like in 33, the way it says the youngest according to his youth, that he put the youngest at the head of the table.
Yeah, and put the youngest at the head of the table.
Whereas generally the oldest
would be at the head of the table. And remember, that's the same thing Jacob did. That's the same thing their father did. And they were upset about that. So Joseph wants to know, have you changed? And I can't tell you that this is what I'm doing to you. I've got to just put you in that situation. That's what God does to us. He puts us in the same situation that we went through before, and he wants to know, have you changed, or are you going to react the same way? You going to act the fool again? You going to cut up again? And then people might look at you and say, really? I mean, we done been through this before. And you cutting up again? You know? And this is all Joseph is doing. He's just putting them in the same situation before where you say, you know what? We've been here before. We know how to get through this. We've been here before. And the brothers, they've changed. They've changed. Everything they've been through, they've changed. Because they still don't know who Joseph is. Let's read on. We might get through 44.
Did I already read 1 or no?
I'm sorry. Did you read verse 34?
Yeah.
You read 34. We did not begin. Anybody got any questions or comments or thoughts on chapter 43 before we move on? Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay, we're good? All right, let's go.
And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth.
See, type of Christ. You can't pay for what God gives you. You can't say, you can't pay for that. Now here comes the next test that they don't know is coming, that Joseph is putting them through. Here comes the next test. Read on.
And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money.
What's this all about? Hide my cup. Put my cup in the youngest one's mouth. Because remember, they would have eaten they ate at a different table. Joseph would have had a special silver cup that was his cup that he drank out of. That's why when Joseph says, put my silver cup, Joseph says, take my cup and put it in whose sack? Benjamin's. Mm-hmm. That is so, this is getting good. I remember watching the miniseries, and this is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I'm envisioning that. Come on, read on. Which verse?
Still in 2.
Still in 2, okay.
And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good?
Nobody knows what's going on but Joseph. Nobody has no idea but Joseph, right? Come on.
Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth?
Mm-hmm.
Ye have done evil in so doing.
Come on.
And he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Behold the money which we found in our sacks' mouths, we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold?
Now we know what that is. That says, you know what? You gave us back our money before. We didn't know you gave it to us. We took it all the way home to Canaan. And we took it all the way home. We brought that money all the way back to you and gave it to you. Why would we steal from you? If we wanted to steal from you, we would have kept the last money. They're trying to explain it away. But what do they not know they're in possession of? The cup. They don't know they're in possession of the cup yet. Come on.
With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bond.
Who are they talking about?
The baby
Benjamin. They're talking about Benjamin. Because Benjamin, remember a couple verses before, Joseph tells his servant, put my cup in Benjamin's sack. Put my cup in Benjamin. Benjamin has possession of it, and he doesn't even know it. Because this is another test that Joseph is putting them through. He's wanting to see, will you give your life for your youngest brother because you didn't give your life for me? You sold me into slavery. Now they say, if you come on and search us, and if you find the cup, whoever is in possession of that cup, let that person be a slave. Because that's what they did to Joseph, remember? They sold Joseph into slavery. So now they're saying, you let that person, because they are convinced you're not going to find anything. They don't know they've walked right into Joseph's trap and they have no idea. Read on, Jamie. And we won't get to the end of 40. Well, we might. Come on. Read on.
We've got 5 minutes.
Well, let's find a good stopping place. We're good.
And he said, now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless.
When he says, he is referring to Joseph's servant. And Joseph's servant is saying, you're right. If we find the cup, that person is going to be a slave, a servant, is going to be a slave according to his own words. Come on.
Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground and opened every man his sack.
And you can envision that. They like, come on, search me. I don't have anything. You can search me. Read on.
He searched and began at the eldest and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack.
Hey, that's got to be a moment like you've never seen before. When that cup falls out on the ground, or he picks that cup up and holds it up in the air, I can imagine all 11 of those brothers' hearts just sink. I mean, it just sinks. And
because they had promised their father that nothing would happen to him.
And who made a promise that he would give his life for Benjamin? Judah. He's the one. Right? Come on, read on. Which verse?
13.
13. Oh, we got 5 minutes. We have plenty of time.
Then they rent their clothes and laded every man his ass and returned to the city.
Now, you all remember renting their clothes. That's something that's going to be done throughout the entire Bible. So remember that when it says rent their clothes, meaning rip their clothes, that's a sign of disagreement. That's a sign of sadness. That's a sign of anger. That's just a sign of I just ripped my. That's just hey I'm just in disgust of what's going on. That said they rent their clothes. So that's what that is. But read on, Jamie. 14.
And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground.
They're bowing again.
And Joseph said unto them, what deed is this that ye have done? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? And Judah said, what shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak, or how shall we clear ourselves? Mm-hmm. God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold,
What are they talking about? God has found out the iniquity of our servants.
Thy servants.
Of thy servants. Their original sin. They're thinking that, and they're right. We're going through all of this because of our original sin. Because remember, Simeon is back with them. And this is the first time when they were at dinner, that was the first time that all 12 brothers were together in at least, in some years. So now that they're there, Judah becomes the spokesperson for the family, and Judah begins confessing their sins to Joseph, a type of Christ, right? The Lord doesn't reveal more of himself to us until we completely confess our sins to him, which means we have to come to the Lord by what? By faith. And when we come to him by faith and we accept his salvation by faith is when the Lord reveals more of himself to us. Because up until then, you say, Lord, I don't know you. That's because we accept him by faith. Come on, salvation by faith. Read on, Jamie. Which verse?
We're in the middle of 16.
16. Okay, good.
God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found.
Joseph says all of us are going to be your servant. Mm-hmm.
And he said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. Then Judah came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh.
Keep going.
My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have ye a father or a brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead.
Speaking of Joseph.
And he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou sayest unto thy servants, Bring him down unto me, that I may set mine eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die.
Mm-hmm.
And thou sayest unto thy servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, ye shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down if our youngest brother be with us.
Mm-hmm.
Then we will go down, for we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant, my father, said unto us, You know that my wife bare me 2 sons.
Mm-hmm.
And
See, that's the 2 sons. That's Rachel's 2 sons, Joseph and Benjamin. Joseph knows all this, but he needs for them to confess their sin, a type of Christ. Jesus knows all of that. He knows your entire story. But it's for us to confess our sins to him is only when you know, when you receive that forgiveness. Up until then, you're carrying more than you can handle, and you're just carrying it. Oh, I see it. We got to wrap up. Find a stopping place, Jamie. We'll finish up. Where you at?
we can just stop there at
We can
28.
stop right there. Okay, that's good. We can stop right there because when we pick it up, Joseph is going to reveal himself to his brothers. But look, Joseph does not reveal himself to his brothers until they do what? Until they confess their entire sin against not only themselves, but against what they did to Joseph. Because when Joseph comes back and says, hey, I'm your brother Joseph, that's when they realize it's been Joseph the whole time. That's why I love this story, man. I'm telling you, it's a great story. Hey, listen, let's remember those that are not